I want to take a few minutes to just sort of, reflect on the last day and a half. It has been a fire hose, no doubt, but I think it's been a very enlightening one. And this is for the purpose of, Suresh and myself and Manish and NCER to think about next steps, right? I did ask you all in the morning if you had ideas about good next steps. So, actually, why don't we start with that? Anybody has a suggestion or an idea in terms of carrying forward this agenda? I can tell you a little bit about what we have been thinking about. So first of all, Suresh was really bold enough to actually engage in this conversation even before he accepted this job, right? So this was something that, he, was very excited about. And I think we are envisaging a center that tries to achieve the kinds of things we were talking about, this in the previous session, the agenda that was laid out. I think what we learned in the last day and a half, at least for me, was that I think there was this latent demand for getting these three worlds together, right? The academics, the policymakers, and the practitioners. I think I heard that from everybody, over the last 2 days. And I think this conference is a very good first step for that. I think there is an opportunity to create what I might call a trusted DPI data commons, right? If somebody has a better name, I'm happy to sort of, debate that. But Jen yesterday was telling me that, Korea has a model of this, but a place where all these different data sets can be, NCER and the center can provide the stewardship for the research community and potentially even the private sector with the right, business model to leverage these data sets that we've been talking about, right? So your thoughts, your ideas on how to do this, are absolutely welcome. But I think that's something that, for me was a clear takeaway. Jonathan Hirsch, I think he maybe jet lagged, so he left. But he made a very good point. I think he said that the biggest barrier for the government to actually, implement and utilize this new kind of data is actually training, right? So I think that's an opportunity, Suresh, and there are lots of people out here who know how to do training very well, right? And we can partner also with, all the institutions. So I think, for me, I think that's an opportunity. We have to think of making this center a beachhead for all of you who've, traveled from far and wide, for coming in and doing, I would say DPI and AI specific research. And I think, Manish was kind of labeling this earlier as a concierge service, which we can provide to the research community, to, I think, the policymakers. And I think the last 2 days were a very good example of that, right? I'm sure all of you made very good connections. I think the only other thing that sort of I feel, we left a little bit money on the table, but I'm sure we'll improve next year, is including other Indian institutions, academic institutions, right? So hopefully you guys will spread the good word about this conference. But those were my thoughts. Suresh, you want to add to that?
Yeah. No, thank you, Ravi. And thank you, first of all, for curating a wonderful conference. I think generally everybody was very, very appreciative of that. So thank you. I think one thing that became quite clear is that we will also have to look at the model of setting up the center different than a conventional way of just setting up the center with researchers and capabilities, etc. Maybe we'll have to consider a more networked model in which we have partnerships across various institutions, both Indian and domestic, because the data capabilities, etc., are going to lie in different places. And I think everybody is on a path of evolution, maybe at different speeds, at different milestones, but there is no set process or agenda that is out there. So let's just think through that as we go forward as well.
Yeah, I like the consortium idea. I mean, there's Madhu runs Sritni at ISB, Venkatesh was here from IIT Madras, the CDPI, of course, Kamya was here. So I think this consortium of centers that have
and with some of the US universities or professors,
I think that's a good idea. Any suggestions or ideas from, Suman, please?
how do you bring some of the boldness of Bangalore to a Delhi-based institution? Because the risk aversion, particularly on data in Delhi, anonymization, we heard, it should be a no-brainer, but it is, it is a no-brainer in the sense that no brains are applied to it. So I'm serious about this. I mean, as it were, the yeastiness of the Bangalore ecosystem. Can you bring that to Delhi? Can NCR bring that to Delhi? I think there's a lot more models from Bangalore than, as it were, than Delhi has so far thrown up. So that would be my one reaction.
Or we could take NCR to Bangalore, it's as a hub, again, that hub and spoke concept, right? And we've talked about that actually already, I think.
Manish, you want to take that?
No, go ahead.
No, so thank you for pointing it out, because that's one debate that we've been having at the board level, right? With regard to whether, again, India being such a vast country, and not just AI DPI, but context changes everything. And so to an extent, how do we become more relevant in the evolving world in which the requirements are different, agendas are different, context is different. So it's a wonderful suggestion. We will certainly be thinking about that. As a precursor to that, let me just share with you that as we are looking to strengthen our macro and finance center, we are very seriously thinking of anchoring that in Mumbai, because we think that NCR could be the bridge between Mumbai and Delhi, between the financial world and the economic world, and the same model is perhaps is going to apply to AI DPI Center as well. Thank you for your suggestion.
Madhu.
So this is coming from an academic request in terms of, NBER has this working paper series, which becomes this setup for people to start looking into papers. I think something similar, which we not yet published papers, but at least working papers, will help people like researchers get in, inputs from policymakers, from other people who are working in that area. And I think it will end up, really enriching the system as such.
Yeah, and so Manish is reminding me that actually NCR has had a relationship with the NBER. I think we're going to revive that. I think so. That's definitely, and the board has been also talking about that, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And Madhu, I mean, just to amplify the point that he made, we discussed about an hour ago, in which he said that could you set out the agenda for AI DPI 2027, right, and then call for papers so that people can start to engage with that, and then build thematic groups which can start to collaborate on that. Yeah, so we'll take it up. Thank you.
Yeah, if anybody wants to be a co-chair of a conference, I'm taking sort of offers. So yeah.
India is the leader of the global South, and it would be, I think, regrettable if you didn't also use this opportunity to project this towards the rest of the global South, in places where these issues are sometimes even more painful than they can be here. Whether it's in Africa south of the Sahara, or, you just take a country like Tunisia or Morocco, there is no mobile money in these countries because, French banks have completely, right, crushed the stuff, basically. So whether it's Africa, Latin America, other countries in Asia, I think NCER could be a fer de lance of Indian soft power through DPI and AI.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Would love to continue that conversation, right? I know Manish said he'll sort of maybe have the final word and thank people, but I actually want to start by thanking him. I think there are a lot of people who say a lot of things. There are very few people who say things eloquently, right? So, but even further ratified is the air of people who actually put their money where their mouth is, and he's one of them, right? So yeah, he's actually underwritten this entire workshop. So Manish, thank you very much. Yeah, and for also for your vision and setting this up, right? Obviously, this would not have been possible without Suresh, coming in, actually, you've been in this job for what, 6 months or 4 months, right? We were talking about this before you even accepted the offer, up in the office out here. And it's been a pleasure working with him. We've had a few drinks together, over the last 6 months, and your team is just incredible, right? So I want to make sure I recognize all of them. And if I miss somebody, my bad, totally. But Khushi, please give her a hand. Divya, there's Divya. Yeah. Prem, he's the guy who's making sure all of us get, even in a place like Delhi, we've been actually on time, and we'll make sure you finish on time as well. Souvik and Ria. Yeah. Souvik and Ria. Thank you so much. Am I missing somebody?
Abhishek Sanjay.
No, of course, I'm going to that team as well. Merle, I think, who's many of you have been talking to on the content side, and also, actually Manish's team from Kanpur, Abhishek ji at the back. All the good food that you're eating, and by the way, something really special is awaiting you for dinner. So I won't leak that out. But Sanchita. I think big hand to all of them. I think it would not have been possible. Honestly, we just had a lot of fun putting this together, right? So yeah.
So there are a few team members whose names are not here. Maybe not, they are not in the room, but I do want to acknowledge, Joshi ji, Vipin ji, the security staff, and everybody who just put this together. I mean, I'll be celebrating their achievement with the team on Monday, but thank you to all of you.
No, I just wanted to thank everybody for making the hike, and just with 3 sort of requests. One is sort of help us make this center think about big problems. That's really important. Big problems that matter to India. I think we're trying to change the world, not describe it. I did want to sort of remind all of you of that. That always is sometimes jarring for, every side can, as I said yesterday, thinkers look down on doers, doers look down on thinkers, but that's completely unhelpful. And what we're trying to do here at NCAER, and what we've been trying to do since 1956, is think about what matters to India. But I think what matters to India, as Suman said right now, is just we need higher productivity of our state, of our cities, of our sectors, of our firms, and our citizens. And I think there is no Diet Coke approach. There's no taste without the calories. When you think there's a Diet Coke approach to policy, you end up with fiscal and monetary policy, but public, because you think there's this solution that you can. But the fiscal policy has its limitations given public debt, given many things. And I think monetary policy is, I'm quite clear that I don't think the US Fed balance sheet will ever go back to 1 trillion, which it was in 2000. It was 3 trillion in 2000. Quantitative easing should never have been invented. I know articulate, educated PhDs like to look down on politicians, but the articulate, educated central bankers sort of look down upon fiscal deficits, but have changed the world with quantitative easing in ways that has not been good for the world. And that's why I just always like to remind all of you about what Dr. Manmohan Singh said when he laid the foundation stone, I did yesterday, that NCAR should not only be light-bearing, but it should be fruit-bearing. And I think, in closing, we should always remember that data is sort of a double-edged sword, like a knife. A knife can be used for murder, can be used for surgery too. I find it kind of sad that economics has become mathematics and political science has become statistics. And I remember talking about high frequency data. We spent a lot of time on it at the RBI board a few years ago, and that led to a lot of presentism, right? Because there was, historian Broral used to call it fireflies and froth. we were spending too much time on high frequency data without thinking about the underlying models, as Bhagwan pointed out about data versus models. But obviously data is invaluable when you have it in the right place at the right time. I'm working on this decriminalisation project, and ticketless travel is not a crime in many countries. It's been a crime in India since 1948. And the Chairman Railway Board refused to decriminalise it because he said it's a deterrent and Indian railways will be overrun
if you decriminalize it. But we put some data scientists on the job because it was very hard to do. But 8 cases were filed by the Railway Board for 800 crore travelers last year. And I said, your deterrent is not working. It's a different thing that he said, oh, look, only 8 cases, my deterrent is working. but the only way that was removed was because we proved that there were only 8 cases filed for 800 crore travelers. And that was because of a certain kind of DPI, which the government has, which will never be public. But we were able to sort of figure that there were only 8 cases filed. So I think if you work on the big problems that matter, I would only request you to be patient. You have to be patient. So in compounding, whether NCR has been around since 1956. But India is an ancient civilization finding its modern voice, right? And are there fixed costs of democracy? I know I seem to admire China a lot, but I don't want to live there. But I do admire them moving 300 million people from farm to non-farm employment. And so if you think about AI, DPI, if you think about NCR as your intellectual home for other things, I know a lot of you work on, there was such interesting work all of you showcased from a perspective of AI, DPI, but I was thinking about your portfolios. I looked many of you up. Please feel free to reach out to us at NCAER. We'll be happy to host. Think of it as your intellectual home. We do have now the resources that we need as think tanks in India have sort of never had the resources or invested in raising resources, and that's why we decided that if India had to sort of move to the next level, we will move this. So please be patient with us. I think AI and DPI as an idea whose time has come, adding AI to DPI, and so as most wisdom lies with Calvin and Hobbes, I will. Calvin says the secret to success is being in the right place at the right time. Since never know the right time, you find the right place and hang out and he goes to sleep. That's essentially what we're going to do with the AI DPI Center. We're going to hang out here for the next 10 years. We're going to count on your support in taking us to that policy insight, which is not correlation, which is causation, which is not a typical RCT, which is neither scalable, replicable, or generalizable, but is stuff that we can really take to the population scale, solutions that are now being sought by policymakers. I don't think we face the same manufacturing era that China started. Deng Xiaoping was very smart, but he was also very lucky. He got a 30-year super cycle of global growth, global openness to trade, and global deconstruction of manufacturing. That's not, and India has been dealt in 2026. So we have to think about, Danny Roderick's premature deindustrialization is something that often we think about. I think the world of trade has changed. So India will figure out our own model. I think we won't be hot or cold. We'll be consistently warm. That's our brand. And and I don't think there's anything wrong with that brand. But I think DPI and AI will be an important part of this. But in all your intellectual roaming, please consider us your intellectual home, your intellectual concierge, your intellectual escort service, whatever you want to think of us. And then we will be happy to get you data that you need, get you researchers that you need, and even get you the access that you need. So thank you very much, and let's join for dinner.